Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Hand Me Down Recipes. This is Kathie, and we have Luci from Luci's Morsels with us today. How are you, Luci?
I'm hanging in there for a Monday morning.
There you go. That's right. It is a Monday morning. And so we're going to talk today about a coffee cake recipe that was your grandmother's. Happens to be the Betty Crocker recipe, but it's also like it was your grandma's recipe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, I probably said this before. I had a very special relationship with both my grandmas. Like it's just a special thing, the relationship between your grandma and her granddaughter. I think I'm sure that's not true for everybody, but it was so special for me. And so, like anytime someone wants to talk about their grandma's recipe, I'm really excited. So tell us a little bit about the coffee cake and what it has meant in your family.
Yeah. So let's see. It's interesting going back 1 second before that is that my one of my grandmas passed away while I was like a baby. I never really met her. My
Mhm.
other grandma passed away when I was 6, and I really didn't get to be close to her. So it was really more my aunts who kind of filled that role. But I have a son who is 6 and he loves his grandmas. And so I don't necessarily have that, but I'm watching him have that, which is a slightly different perspective, but still just as wonderful. My son loves what he calls coffee bread, which is the
Oh yeah.
combination. Yeah, so my mom will always tell you like, "Oh, mom, where'd you get this recipe from?" And she's like, "My Betty Crocker, the original, the one she got her first wedding in 1963, and it is still like it's falling apart, but when in doubt, the Betty Crocker." And I have a bunch of cookbooks on my shelf, and when in doubt, I go to my Betty Crocker one because it's like the basic recipe, and I can just go wherever from there. And sadly, and I don't know why, the coffee cake recipe is not in the new Betty Crocker cookbook. So you have to maintain the original one. So it's a cinnamon streusel. There's part of the recipe is to have it I don't know what they're like a middle layer of the streusel
Right.
and then crispy on top. And making it is like super easy. I think the hardest part is once you put the middle streusel layer on, then you have to kind of spread the
Yeah.
thick batter. And I'm an impatient perfectionist, I've
Hmm.
realized. And so I have to just lean in. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It's gonna be delicious. So yeah, I grew up making it. My mom would make it often on Sunday mornings and it'd be gone. And then I've started making it, and my husband, who actually really can't eat much gluten, will always enjoy it. My son will wake up, "Mom, can we make coffee bread this weekend?" And I'm like, "Let me try." My mother-in-law, who was like for years, like, "I hate nuts, but please make your coffee cake," all these things. And then the coffee cake is special to me because it was kind of like the one of the impetus for starting my blog. So it's been like a long standing, it just keeps coming up in my life.
So tell us why it was the impetus for the blog. I'm interested in that.
It was well, back in my day. It was 2012, and I was in a PhD program, and I was in year 4, and I think starting to come to terms with the fact that being in academia was not gonna be a good life decision for me. But anyway, I was with
Mhm.
my now husband, we were living together. I know.
In year 4 of PhD, that's it. Yeah, I
Yeah, oh, I
understand
was
because I've
all
done.
in. And
Yeah, yeah.
then about year 4, I was like, "Oh, the research, not my favorite thing," because my research had me I studied American history, and I focused on Black American history in the 19th century. Super fascinating. I could talk for days
Yeah,
about that. However,
yeah.
it mostly meant that I did a lot of my research on microfiche,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is like just old school pictures, and I usually was in the basements of libraries, whether here
Yeah.
or somewhere else in the country. And I didn't love that, but like it was worth it in the end, that was fine. But just wasn't really I wasn't vibing. So I was like, okay, well, I love teaching. That'll be great. I'm getting ahead of myself on this story. But anyway, and then I
That's
taught
okay.
my first class and I came home. My now husband was like, "How'd it go?" And I was like, "Tell you in 6 weeks." And then the next day I cried the whole drive there, the whole hour
Yeah.
and a half. And then that was sort of the kick in the pants of like, this is not working. But yes, I finished because that's always everyone's question. I do have my
Yeah.
PhD. And by then I'd had my blog. Terrible storyteller because I get ahead of
No,
myself.
you're fine. It's interesting. I'll tell you why in a
So
second.
I had my blog, and I told my husband, I was like, "I don't wanna do this." And he's like, "Okay, can we still move when you graduate?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I told my mom and dad, and my mom was like, "I always knew you were a business person. What are you gonna do instead?" And I was like, "I don't know. People make money blogging." Dumbest thing I've ever said in my life.
Right,
Just
because it's
yeah,
not
I
because if
had no
anybody who
idea. I had no idea. But anyway, thankfully, I was surrounded by a lot of supportive people. So I was in year 4 and I was just, kind of depressed and stressed and all these things. And I bake for therapy, or I used to bake for
right,
therapy. Like it's scientific, it makes sense. This plus this equals yum, you know?
right.
But
Mhm,
I
yeah,
needed to bake way more than he and I could eat. And
yeah.
so I woke up really early one morning and I was like, I'm going to sell all these baked goods. And so under the covers on my phone, I'm like, okay, I'm going to name the business Lucy's Morsels. And I came up with a menu with prices. And I was like, oh, and I'm going to have a blog because that makes sense for businesses to have a blog. Like it was
Right.
sort of the afterthought of that. So for the next 2 years, on one hand, I did sell baked goods. A lot of my like older friends at the gym and stuff would buy the coffee cake for guests that they were having. It was
Sure.
amazing. One of my husband's coworkers would buy chocolate chip cookies, and then one time he bought a dozen, and then he didn't bring any home to his wife, and she was like, "You have to buy 2 dozen so that you'll eat a dozen, like, during the day
Right.
and then bring some home." So
Yeah.
I never really made much money. I probably broke even on the flour and the sugar, but the
Oh, sure.
therapy helped, and what it did actually was kinda open up the blogging for me, which even if I hadn't become a blogger, having something to cross off my to-do list every day was so good, and it helped me get through writing my dissertation.
Ah, very
It's like a
nice.
3-month chapter 2, and you're like,
Right.
so this, it was like, okay, I worked all day and then I'd spend like an hour. I did not spend much time on blog posts. I did not know what I was doing. Uh,
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, no one did when they started, especially back then, because I started way back then too. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, anyway, it's clearly worked out fine now. But so that
Yeah.
the coffee cake was on the menu, which was the beginning of Lucy's Morsels. I probably sold it for $12. I don't know.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's cheap. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
So,
it was
that's
2012 and I was making
right. Yeah.
$12 a month. So everything is relative.
So that's really super interesting. Yeah, and I bake for therapy too. And my neighbors love me because I live in we're a household of two. We obviously cannot eat everything that I bake. And yes, I will put things in the freezer, and we just kind of will munch on cookies or whatever. But there's plenty of things I just share with the neighbors,
You
right?
can
Like,
only eat so
right, you can.
yeah.
Even though I love to eat sweets, but you can only it's only healthy to eat so much. Especially the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
So, we will freeze things and we will share. Absolutely. But I have to tell you that I too, studied history in college and thought I wanted to teach until I student taught. And I studied turn of the century kind of unions. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so,
Yeah.
union history was really interesting to me, worker history. And so I too spent a lot of time in basements of libraries in, like, the city and surrounding small towns and whatever. So I totally get it. And I do love the research, but, I loved the research, not the fun like, having to put it all together, right? Like, I liked to learn. I still like to learn. And even now, I find sometimes with the blog, like, I love to test the recipes. I love to cook and bake, and sometimes I don't wanna do the next sometimes it takes me a lot longer to do the next step, the actual, like, writing of it. Even though I like to write.
And it's funny, the writing, people are like, "Oh, you must know so many things, like, for blogging," because it's like, you do graphic design and photography and photo editing and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Yeah, all that stuff is kind of self-taught with,
Yeah.
outside help," but I'm like, "The writing is what comes very naturally to me." And some people struggle with the writing, and I'm like, that's the part that I'm like, it just flows out of me so ea especially when it's food. It's like I don't even have to think about it. I'm just like, "Let me tell you about what's delicious."
Yeah.
I can be so simplistic because 'cause I'm obviously like, what side dish pairs with, the blah, blah, blah SEO
Right.
shenanigans.
Yeah, the SEO stuff is always yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay, and so the let's talk about it is a really easy recipe. And one of the things I want to tell you about the recipe that I really appreciated because I think that we overcomplicate things, especially food bloggers. We tend to overcomplicate. And what I loved about the recipe, and we'll link to it for everybody, is that she does just say use a fork. Like it's not like you don't have to like get super fancy. Use a fork to just kind of
It's so
smoosh the
I'll
batter
get in there
around.
with my fingers and, like, little dot yeah. I mean, and it helps because, well, 1, I didn't have to recipe test. Betty did that. Betty and her
Right, right,
people.
right, yeah.
So, it's mostly just that I have made it so many times that I just sorta, like, have my little hacks to do it now,
Right.
I guess. But it has never been bad. That's the best part.
Right, and it's not gonna be bad. I mean, it just there's if you measure the ingredients appropriately, there's just no way that this can be bad.
Yeah,
It just can't
science.
because it's just so simple. It's flour and sugar and plenty of it. But the thing is, there's just plenty of cinnamon. Like it smells so good when it's baking, and there's just because there's
Oh,
cinnamon in the batter and in the streusel,
you know
and it's
what?
just amazing.
I have to take credit for the cinnamon in the batter. That is
Ah,
not blue. So,
okay,
you are
there you
welcome.
go.
Yeah, my husband and I
I love it.
love cinnamon, so I was like, "I need
Yeah.
more." So there you go, that 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, this girl. Yeah.
There you go. See? And I think for folks who are always like, "Want to, switch it up or whatever," you could use any kind of spice and it'll be just excellent. I mean, you
Yeah,
could mix it if you really wanted to. You could use some ginger in there. My husband really likes ginger, so I was like, maybe sometime I'll put but cinnamon is great, and I always have, like, the giant
economy cinnamon,
jar.
yes.
Yeah, of cinnamon around. Yes. We use it for so much, and we love it. So we don't have any problem with it. And and it, so it's great for anyone. And it's like so simple, even for a baking recipe. Even if you're not a baker, you're going to be able to do this because it's just a little bit of butter and some flour and sugar and spice and baking powder, right? Baking powder. And in my back of my head, I'm like, it's baking powder, not baking
I
soda. I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure. Yeah, because it rises so much, and that's the thing. So for people who might be new to baking, you do put a little bit at the bottom and then some streusel and then more batter at the top and then more streusel a little bit at the top. And it might seem a little thin, but there's enough baking powder in there that it really fluffs up,
Yeah.
rises
Yeah.
really nicely
Yeah,
and does
fluffs.
get
I
really
think fluffs
fluffy.
is the appropriate
It's
word.
fluffed. It's fluffed the
Mhm.
right word.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. It's a
Happy to use
because
the
of the
accurate word.
it does fluff up. It's very fluffy. It's very light.
It is. And I put so much more butter on after, which my husband finds atrocious, but I like butter.
Yeah, I like butter too. And it's so funny because when I was making it, I was like, you could almost put more in here, but I wasn't gonna mess with it too much because
I
I
don't
thought
and it's funny, I don't think the coffee cake needs it. It's
no.
one of those where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, fresh sourdough's great." Do you know what's even better? Butter on fresh sourdough. Like, it's one of those
Right.
where it's like, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
you put them together. You wouldn't put
Right.
ketchup in your fries. Maybe that's a horrible analogy. Anyway,
Yeah. So you melt it or you just put like kind of more like melted butter you pour over the top or you
no, no,
just
no.
put like
That's
a
like
pat of butter?
yeah, pat about it's
Slat.
way more
You could almost even because I've seen people do this, and I almost think this would be too sweet for me, which is funny because I like sweet. But you could almost put like a drizzle of like a vanilla glaze. I've seen other people do that
yeah,
with
but then
coffee
I can't
cake.
eat it for breakfast.
Yeah, no, I
I have
couldn't
a
either.
very funny thing, like, I don't want chocolate in the morning, and I don't want like, I don't like frosted things, even though, like, a muffin or, like, banana bread, whatever, it's literally just cake in a different form, like, a different
Right, it is.
it's
Yeah,
what it is.
right.
So I kinda
A
like
muffin
the
is
expense
just a
of
cupcake.
coffee bread.
Nobody wants to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know,
A
sorry.
muffin,
Sorry, everybody.
a muffin really is just gonna be. I'm not gonna say that I don't eat it, but it just is. I mean, it
Yeah, I
just
mean, look
is.
at the
It's just a
ingredients,
cupcake.
they're sometimes not as sweet, but then usually it's the cake or whatever is sweeter because of the frosting on top, so then if you don't put frosting, it's totally fine.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I mean, we can
You
tell
do you,
ourselves whatever
people,
we
I don't
want.
care.
Right. Do what you want. I'm not going to tell you not to have cake for breakfast. Yeah. I always say, and I said this on another episode recently, I was like, this is a judgment free zone. I don't care how you eat whatever you want and have cake for breakfast. Go you. And I'm not going to, because I will definitely have pie for breakfast.
Weird.
Because I always figure it's just fruit and pastry. It's fine to have pie for breakfast. That kind of pie. I'm not going to
Nobody's
have like
life is
a,
gonna fall apart.
no,
I mean, for some reason, we
exactly.
think donuts are fine in the morning, which I don't really like
Right.
donuts in the morning, but oh man, with an afternoon coffee, yes.
Right.
Like, so I mean,
I'll be honest, I tend to have my husband and I always have we're early risers at our house. And so we kind of have like the high protein. We do tend to have a high protein breakfast because I feel better when I eat protein.
yes.
I'm older, I just feel better when I have protein for breakfast. But we eat early, like before 5 in the morning. So then by like 10, we want a snack. And so we always say a
I
10
think I
o'clock
eat
snack.
breakfast at 8 and I still want a snack at 10, but I
Yeah, at 10 we have snacks, and at 10 it usually is, like, it will often be something
sweet.
sweeter, like a little piece of coffee cake
Yeah.
with a cup of coffee or whatever,
Right.
and because there's always something in the freezer, it's easy to pull out something, right? Because what I do and I did do this with the coffee cake for anyone who's interested, I did make the cake and we had a slice fresh, but then that was, like, enough for a while, and I did just slice it up pieces and put it in the
Yeah.
freezer, and it froze beautifully.
Yeah.
So you
No,
can
and that's good because I find like, let's say I make it Sunday, you can taste that it's not fresh Monday, and then
yeah,
it does start to dry out. So this it's just a reality,
right,
no matter what container you put it in.
right.
And especially because I don't use Saran wrap in my house.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to put everything in containers of some sort. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and because we are a household of 2, it's just easier for us to just throw stuff in the freezer and then take it out whenever we want it. You can sit on the counter, like, quite literally pull it out at, like, 8:30, and by 10, it will be at room temperature, thaw enough to eat, you know?
Yeah.
So, you can absolutely do that, and it doesn't dry out as much once it's in the freezer, and,
I think
I mean,
freezers are
if you left it for
totally
6 months or something.
underestimated these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, so good. And, so you tend to eat it for breakfast, brunch, afternoon snack, dessert even probably, anything.
Yeah. You do you,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
do me. It's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kinda
Eh,
one and then because I know it goes bad, I'm like, "Well, I gotta eat it, or it's gonna
right.
dry out." Even though
There you
I will
go.
absolutely eat some dried out coffee cake.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would probably when you were talking about donuts, I actually almost prefer, like, day-old donuts because I like to be able to dunk it in my
Mm.
coffee.
Mm.
Same with cookies. I like a crunchy cookie because I like to dunk it into my, which was something we did in my family growing up, and so I still to this day like to dunk
We
it.
had frozen cookies growing up because if my mom didn't put them in the freezer, all my siblings would eat them.
Right.
And so now all of us like frozen cookies. We're like, just a little, and my husband is just like, he's like,
Oh
"No."
yeah, my husband will absolutely. He loves the frozen cookies too. Like
Yeah,
loves
but he's
them.
like, "No,
Yeah.
it needs to be melty." And I'm like, "Oh, I hate melty chocolate." Like,
So see, everybody is different, and it's totally fine.
yeah.
'Cause the world doesn't crumble, it's what makes the world go round, actually.
Yes,
The more
exactly.
different, the better. And so, tell us, so you did say this was kind of, like, passed down in your family. So you
Uh-huh.
made it as a child with your mom
Yes.
or your aunts? Yeah, yeah. And so you probably have it at family functions and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the fun thing is, like, it doesn't have to be, like, a special recipe, like, yes, you need to soften a little tiny bit of butter, but, like, other
Right.
than that, you can kinda just throw it together whenever, it's stuff that we always have on hand, so now it's kinda fun because, yes, if we're gonna have, like, a brunch, it's like, "Oh, we'll have coffee cake," but my kid can also be like, "Mom, can we make coffee bread?" You know?
Yeah. And so he calls it bread even though you make it, like, do you make it in a loaf pan
No,
too? No, just okay, I was just
no.
curious.
We're
You
just
could. I mean, I suppose you could make
6
it
and
in a
it's
loaf pan.
cute.
Yeah,
Its bread sounds more breakfasty, and I just
I
love that he
suppose
loves
that's
it.
true.
He's like, this is the funniest thing because I like chocolate. I'm not like I don't love it. I do not like chocolate ice cream. I don't really like chocolate cake, those things. My husband,
Yeah,
chocolate guy. My
yeah.
son, chocolate guy. And so he, like, won't eat desserts if it's not chocolate. He
Oh, that's
will
funny.
he will allow vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce on top,
Oh.
but no. And so, like, and I bring this up only because my favorite dessert is, like, homemade fruit crisp. And
Oh,
crisp
yeah. Oh,
cobbler or crumble, I like a crisp, and my son doesn't like it. He's like, "No, it's too spicy, it's not my thing." But he loves coffee cake, which I'm like, "It's kinda the same I mean, and I guess I don't put ginger in it or, like, cloves, but he loves coffee cake, loves it. Like, in his perfect world, we have it every weekend.
that's funny. Yeah, well, in mine too,
His
honestly,
mom's
but
just not having it.
yeah. Mom's like, "I'm not making it every week." Right, like, because in the perfect world for me, I would have apple pie probably every week, and I
Yeah.
certainly don't.
Yeah, but
I'm
every week.
lucky if I make 2 a year,
Yep.
really, but I love it. So, yeah, and I do love apple crisp too, and berry crisp, all the crisps. I love fruit dessert. I love dessert, but I like fruit
Yes.
desserts quite a bit, especially and because of where I live in Northwest Montana, like, the season for fresh fruit is
Yep.
really short, and so, it's one of those things where I'm always just like, take advantage of it when you can kind of
I know, I'm
thing.
so spoiled in California.
Yeah, yeah, you are.
Well, I just have produce all the time, but apple is still my favorite, and I love peach, but, like, I'm okay with berry crisp, I don't know.
Right.
And then funny kinda connecting them. So, I learned that when I make my crisp, I learned from the coffee cake recipe, from the streusel part of it, that I like to
Yeah,
melt the butter and then mix it in with the cinnamon and oats and flour or whatever, because then it really is a crisp on top. It's crumbly at all. I don't
right.
have time for
Right, if you used, like a softened butter or cold butter, right, yeah. So oftentimes streusels is there are kind of 2 different variations of streusel. I've often found it's either the cold butter that you mix all up, crumble up together, or the melted.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's really interested, you can make, like, a giant batch of streusel, freeze it, and just pull it out and top it on top, which I've done plenty of times because I like a crumb-topped apple pie. So you can make the streusel and then just put it on top of your apples and you have it in the freezer, and that's a really easy, quick thing if you feel like you want to do that. Although it does not this recipe does not take long.
It doesn't. It really I tell you, the spreading with the fork is the hardest part.
Right, and when I was making it, because I tested it last week, your recipe last week, and I was like, "Okay, I'm trying to get it," and I too I start to get a little fussy, but my patience will run. And I'm like, "You know what? It's not gonna matter. You're gonna put the streusel over the top anyway."
It took me It's amazing how long it takes to learn some simple lessons in life. Nah. I know, I still tell Oh, yeah, I used to kind of fret, and now I try my best. I do so, I think I also, like, kind of figured out my happy place with how much of the batter I wanna put on the bottom, and so then I actually
Right,
leave a little bit more on top. I don't remember if I put this in the recipe because I posted it so long ago, but I think I
right,
keep a little bit more than half for the top just because it's, like, just easier to work with.
right.
And then I try and do, like, little drops around. It's not runny, so, like, for those of you who, like, made a cake or whatever, kinda, like, oozes out. This is more
Right.
like this sounds terrible, blobby?
It's I was gonna say kinda drop
Thicker.
biscuit-like.
Yes, yeah. But so it doesn't just, like, float into its own place. You really
Right,
need
it's
to, like,
not like a cake. It's not
yeah,
runny
push it
like a
around,
regular
which
right.
when you make it, it'll make so much sense, and you'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Kathie and Lucy, yeah, totally." But it sounds funny right now.
Right. But it's I definitely did drop it and then just kinda did the best I could. And then I was
Crushing
like,
it.
I'm throwing the streusel on top and I'm just not going to stress out about it.
And it
And
was
I'm just not
delicious.
going to stress out.
This is
And
the
it was delicious.
yeah,
And I probably put like a few more nuts in it just because I know that we like nuts, right?
we do too.
Like I think I can't remember exactly the exact measurement, but whatever it was, like half a cup or a cup. I always do like a heaping
Yeah.
cup
Oh, I
of
probably do too.
nuts.
And I really
Yeah.
like, my recipes combine like, so when I chop my nuts, I do some that are really fine, so it almost becomes
Yeah.
like not quite a nut flour, but like more the essence rather than the chunks, and then I
Yeah.
do some chunks. It was kind of funny because I had braces recently, like, yes, in my late 30s, and so I couldn't do big chunks of nuts, so for a while, I was, like, using my grinder to, like, make them so small. I totally miss
Right.
the chunky nuts, but anyway, I kinda do the mix, and then, yeah, my half cup is 2/3, 3/4,
Right. And I do the same thing.
but we just like pecans, and yes, pecans are my preferred baking nut.
Right.
My mom does
So
not
your mom does not agree? She likes
no,
walnuts.
walnuts are really pretty good, and I'm like, "No, no, they're not as good." It's scientific.
Both, but I tend to have walnuts around more often in the freezer because I use them to I make potitsa, which is a Serbian nut bread, and you use walnuts for that. You wouldn't use pecans would be not traditional, I guess,
Yeah,
but you could probably, it just wouldn't be traditional
I
walnuts
find
for
them
sure.
interchangeable because, like, it doesn't
Yeah,
ruin a recipe doing one over the other.
right. I do really like pecans, but it's just I just don't generally have them unless I
Yeah,
specifically go shopping for them,
and
right?
I
But
generally
walnuts are
always have
always
pecans in the
see?
freezer.
Yeah, right. Because nuts freeze forever. Forever!
And you just take them out and, like so I use pecans in my pesto. I use pecan like,
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much everything. So walnuts kinda make my mouth itchy.
So maybe you're allergic?
It's more like an irritate like a bothersome itch, not like a
Yeah.
serious one. So, I don't mind them and I like the flavor fine enough, but I love pecans, especially like a toasted pecan. Sorry, I'll get off my
Yeah.
pecan high horse here.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, and you could
yeah.
absolutely toast the nuts for this recipe if you wanted to get
Oh,
fancy
yeah.
schmancy.
That sounds like it's making it a
Absolutely.
little bit more complicated, but again, you do you.
That's right, and I will be honest, I hardly ever toast nuts. I know everyone's like, "Oh, it makes them so much better." I hardly ever do.
I think it depends. Yeah, so when I use my pecans in pesto, I do toast them a bit.
Do you?
But that's because nothing else is really cooked in there, and I feel like I don't
Right.
know. My pesto is weird. I use pecans, I don't use pine nuts. I don't use garlic
I
because
don't
you can't eat garlic.
yeah, I can't eat garlic either, so yeah,
We don't miss it.
because yeah, I miss it, but it's been a number of years since I've been able to eat it, so
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
have it when we
you
go
get used
out,
to
and
it.
I'm the worst because my mom doesn't like garlic. She's not like she doesn't have a sensitivity to it, and she'll be like, "Does it taste garlicky?" And I'm like, "No, I don't taste it at all." And then they taste it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like,
Right.
"It's just like amazing. It's like water." So I'm not the best.
Yeah, see, I will forget that I can't have it because I have a hiatal hernia. It's not like a big deal, but it's the thing that will make it bothersome is onions and garlic. And so at home we don't eat it, but if I go out, and I will immediately forget, and then the next morning I'll be like, God, my stomach is really upset, and then I'll like smell the leftovers of whatever I brought home, and I'm like, the
Oh,
garlic.
no, yeah. Solve that mystery.
Now you know why you don't feel so good. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell everyone, I always say this too about pesto. I think pine nuts are incredibly expensive, and you can use any nut, or honestly, sunflower seeds work too.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, yeah, it can be anything. Pine nuts are cost a
Yeah,
fortune.
and I don't think they're that great. And, like, what
And
else
I just,
put them in?
I mean, I don't mind spending money on things when I have to, but at the same time, I'm like,
But I would
like
rather
something
buy
else will work.
olive oil.
Right.
Pine nuts. I don't know what peanuts are, but, than pine nuts, yeah. No, olive
Right.
oil.
Right, and I would, even good chocolate, especially now, because chocolate costs a fortune and seems to be going up and up and up and up, and coffee. So I'm not gonna not
Oh,
have
we spend a
coffee.
fortune on coffee.
Yeah, we spend a ton of money on coffee, and so, yeah, so I'm not gonna buy pine nuts, but I am gonna buy good coffee.
I
We all
support
have
that wholeheartedly.
we all have choices we have to make.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there anything else about your, coffee cake recipe that you would like to tell us or people who are making it?
Gosh. No, but go make it. How's that?
That's right. Go make it. And I said this before and I'll say it again. I think you can be a beginner baker and you'll be just fine with this recipe. It's
I think
nothing
so too.
fancy.
Because
Yeah.
you wanna know why? Because it's an older recipe. Not
Right.
so bad that it's like, put flour and sugar to thicken like, I feel like really old
Yeah.
hand-me-down recipes are so vague that
Right.
I'm
They
like,
are.
I'm gonna need a little bit more than that. But it's
Yeah.
also not and we kinda touched on this back at the beginning, but I feel like food bloggers, especially, like, we're trying to create this new amazing concoction, and it's like, yeah, it might be delicious, but well, from a business standpoint, A, nobody's searching for it because they don't know about it.
Right.
But B, like, most people want great recipes for, like they want to know how to cook good chicken.
Right.
You need a coffee cake recipe. They don't, but they do.
Yeah.
And this recipe is for that. And like as I mentioned, like I get my kiddo involved. Like we make the batter together. I have
Yeah.
sprinkle on the streusel, and then he eats it all, and it's great. It's so great.
Right. And you don't right, exactly. This you can do it with your kids. And again, honestly, I tend to almost think anything I make at home is going to be better than anything I buy at the store. And I think that's true for everyone. But I understand sometimes, life is life, and that's not always possible. You won't. There's no coffee cake you can buy unless you go to a bakery and spend a lot of money on a coffee cake, like that you can buy. Like you can't buy like a. I'm going to say Entenmann's because that's what we used to have in Pennsylvania as a brand.
I
Or
know,
like a is that a national brand? I feel like I never
yes.
see it in Montana,
I
so I'm
think
not sure.
well, I don't know about Montana,
Yeah.
but we definitely have it, but nowadays, I'm never in that section for so many reasons, like,
I know, me
I
either,
don't
but
buy
yeah.
baked thi but anyway, uh, I feel like I see, like, the donut packages
Oh,
of, like,
yeah, yeah.
Lincolns, but then, yeah, between, like, that or, like, Little Debbie or all these
There you go, Little Debbie.
all of
Yeah,
those,
they're
no.
not as good.
And I'm totally a snob when it comes to things like this, and there are certain things that I will like, the bakery's better, the coffee shop is better, but I don't think I've had anything that's, like, as good as this homemade coffee cake.
No. And if you do any baking at all, you have everything you need in your pantry already, except for maybe the nuts. Maybe if you don't eat a lot of nuts, you might not have it. You could probably skip it if you're allergic to nuts or whatever, you
You
could skip the
definitely
nuts
skip it
and
if
it'd
you're
be
allergic to nuts.
yeah, and you'd be fine, and still would turn out great. Yeah, the recipe would be fine. You don't have to have the nuts, I don't think. I mean, it would definitely the crunch adds a little something because the cake is so kind of
I think
fluffy. But if you don't like nuts or whatever, you could skip it and it would be fine,
or just chop
everybody.
them up really, really
Yeah. Well, okay, so because I make the potitza, which is a Serbian nut bread, and the nuts have to be ground for the
Mhm.
filling, I use a meat grinder to
Oh,
do that. That's how my grandma did it. My grandma had a hand crank meat grinder. I use an attachment to my KitchenAid mixer that's a grinder. But so that works if you want it really, really fine. But I also have I have like an old fashioned, it's got like a little plastic top and a glass bottom, and you just crank it and it chops the nuts really fine, and you could use that and that would work great, but
I
I
have,
just
like
usually knife.
I have a mini food chopper, it's not called a
Yeah,
processor, but it's, like, the small one, and then
yeah.
that's what you could probably use a blender if you're gonna do enough. I just hate blenders.
Sure, absolutely.
I have
I honestly
not even a
almost use
love-hate, I just hate blenders.
yeah.
It's the cleaning.
This is why I don't like a food processor, because I don't like to clean them. I would rather just use my knife. I'll just use
Yeah.
my knife.
I think
It's so much
when I
quicker
had
for
to
me.
make them really small for when I had braces, I would
Yeah,
put them in the processor because I was like, "Oh, it's just so many," and I'll just skip again, I'm impatient and I'm a
yeah.
perfectionist. They don't go hand in hand, let me tell you. So I will use that one. I don't mind ours is so small, it's probably like 4 or 5 inches across. I
Right.
don't find it annoying to clean. I used to have a big food processor, and it was annoying to clean, so I totally get that.
Yeah, I don't like to clean the blender either. I will use the blender if I have to, like if it's something I have to really
Mm.
I used some to make tomato sauce recently because I don't have a plunger. Yeah.
I do like
Yeah,
to
I don't
use
have
the blender. I lost that too. It's a long story when we moved.
yeah, so, I mean, everything has its place, but I don't love to clean those things either, and I don't I know it's 2025, everyone, but I don't have a dishwasher.
I thought you were gonna say air fryer, and I was like, I don't have one either.
I don't have an air fryer either. I had one for a while. My husband was like, "I think we'll use it." We never used it. Everybody has their thing. I just, I have things I do and I just never felt like I needed it, but I don't have a dishwasher, and so I have to, like, wash stuff by hand, which is fine. Again, we're a household of 2. We don't
And you're
like
used
different
to it.
washes. Yeah, and I'm used to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting I don't have to I have to wash it by hand, and if I don't like to wash it, then I don't wanna use it. We all have the things. Alright, great. Well, Lucy, tell this has been so fun. I really enjoyed this. Tell everybody where they can find you online, please.
Yeah, so my website is lucismorsels.com, and my name's spelled with an I, so it's just
Right.
Lucis, and then morsels from my beginning business days, and then I'm on Instagram. I'm technically on Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, and I'm not on TikTok, and I'm not on Threads, but anyway, I'm secretly an 85-year-old man, just FYI.
No, I'm the same way.
Yeah. No, you can be an 85-year-old I shouldn't say man, but it feels not inaccurate sometimes. Anyway, I'm at Lucy's Morsels, there too.
And we'll link to that for everyone, and I so appreciated this talk. Thank you so much, Lucy, for
Yeah,
sharing your coffee
thanks.
cake with us.